When your child wants something from you, your answer is usually going to be yes or no. When you have said yes, that didn't create any problems because your child heard exactly what she wanted to hear. She got her way. And I also predict that it's not going to create any problems when she has to earn the yes. In fact, it has been my experience in observing families using these strategies that the kids actually enjoy earning their stuff and their freedom now. But when your answer was no, your child put up a lot of energy to try to whittle that no into a maybe and then into a yes. So we're going to talk about what to do when your child wants something from you, but your answer is no. When your child wants something from you and your answer is no, you're going to say no one time and one time only. Now your child is going to argue, right? She's going to say, why not? This isn't fair. Oh, I should be able to do this, please. And she's going to try real hard to get that no turned into a maybe and then into a yes. So the next thing you need to do is tell your child why you're saying no, but you're only going to offer the explanation one time, and then you're going to tell her what she can do to earn a yes if the answer would ever be yes. Now, if the answer will never be yes under any circumstances, then just tell her that. Just say, the answer is no, and it will never be yes, so there's no sense in even asking me again. But you know what? Sometimes, in fact, most of the time, the answer would be yes if certain conditions were different. Maybe she wants to go with this particular person, and you don't feel like that is a positive peer influence, and so you could say the answer is no if you're going to go do this activity with this individual, but if you'll go with these other friends, the answer is yes. Sometimes your answer would be yes if the activity that your child is requesting is at a different time of day or maybe on a different day. So most of the time your answer would be yes if certain conditions were different. So say no one time, give your reason for saying no one time, and if the answer would be yes, explain to her what she needs to do to rearrange the deal so that she can get a yes out of you. As your child tries to whittle that no into a yes, she's going to try 5 different tactics. She's going to distort the facts. She's going to sweeten the deal. She's going to apply guilt trips and insults. And she may just flat out ignore the fact that you've said no. So as she does all of these different manipulations, you're going to put on your poker face and say, I'm not going to argue. And then she's going to push, and you're going to say, I'm not going to argue. And she's going to push some more, and you're going to say, I'm not going to argue. Now, after you do this for several weeks, your daughter is not stupid. She's going to realize that mom has changed, and now when she says no, I'm at a brick wall, and she's going to stop arguing. Now you want to pour on the intensity. Now you want to take your poker face off and say, you know what? I noticed that we didn't argue about this for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 30 minutes. I appreciate that. That's you being respectful. Now that was your acknowledgement and praise, which is your intensity providing when things are going right. But in the meantime, until you get to that point, it's more likely that she's going to continue to push, right? So if your child threatens to ignore the fact that you've said no, then you want to give a clear warning, and it goes exactly like this. If you choose to ignore my request, then you'll choose the consequence, which will be blah, blah, blah. And in the blank there, you want to pick the least restrictive consequence first. Don't pull out your big guns immediately. A least restrictive consequence could be, for example, let's say your daughter really enjoys being on the phone. So you could say, if you choose to ignore my request, you'll choose a consequence, which is you'll be grounded for one evening with no phone privileges. Now, let's say your daughter basically says, screw you, I'm going to go ahead and do what I want without your permission. Then you have to go ahead and let her make that mistake. Do not save her from making a poor choice. And then after the fact, when you catch up with her again, you say, because you chose to do that without my permission, you chose the consequence, which is, in this case, we're picking the least restrictive thing first, which is, let's say, no phone, grounding for one evening. Now, I know that that sounds terribly lenient up front, but we want to lower the bar with these kids, because if we ground them for 2 weeks, it's going to be too much. 3 days works best, but you want to start with the least restrictive consequence first. You don't want to pull out your big guns immediately. So, your child has ignored your no. She went ahead and did what she wanted to do without your permission. You allowed her to make that mistake. You did not try to save her from making a poor choice. And then when you see her again, you let her know that now, because you chose to do that without my permission, you're grounded for 1 evening, no phone privileges. Now, what if your child refuses to accept that consequence? In other words, she doesn't want to be grounded for 1 evening, so she takes off anyway, or she gets on the phone anyway. In this case, you kick it up a notch, and you take everything away, or at least her most favorite stuff, and you tell her that she's grounded for 3 days. Now, if she has a little temper tantrum when she finds out that she's grounded for 3 days, the clock does not start until she's calmed down. I mean, she's still grounded without any privileges, but the clock does not start until she's over her temper tantrum. So you can say, as soon as you calm down, the clock starts. Also, if she violates that 3-day discipline at any point by repeating the original offense, so to speak, then you restart the clock. Let's say, for example, she completed 1 day of a 3-day discipline, and then she repeated the original crime, so to speak, whatever that is. You literally look at your clock and say, for example, it's 10 p.m. Wednesday night. You'll be ungrounded 10 p.m. Saturday night. The 3 days start over. Then the last thing that you want to do in the sequence of things here is you want to let your child know exactly what she has to do or avoid doing in order to get off discipline. And that simply is to not repeat the original offense. But you want to be very specific when you describe that offense. Let's say, for example, and I apologize if this is offensive to you, but let's say, for example, your daughter called you a bitch. So you could say, if you can go 3 days without calling me a bitch, then you're ungrounded. So you have to be that detailed and concrete with these kids. Don't say, well, if you can be respectful over the next 3 days, or if you will just learn how to behave, or if you can just have a good attitude over the next 3 days, then you'll be ungrounded. Don't use those phrases. None of that's going to work because the child really doesn't understand exactly what that even means. You have to be very detailed. Don't call me this particular name. Or if you do not hit your younger brother for the next 3 days, whatever it is, be very detailed. Let them know what they have to do in order to complete this 3-day discipline. Your child is never ever going to work for what you want, but she'll work for what she wants, and she wants her stuff and her freedom. So we as parents have to shift from trying to control behavior to controlling stuff and freedom. Now, I often get a lot of parents to say, well, we've tried that grounding thing and it doesn't work. But when I investigate a little further, I find that the parent has either grounded the child way too long, or she was inconsistent with the grounding. In other words, she grounded her child for 2 weeks, and then 1 or 2 days into the grounding, mom changes her mind and withdraws the consequence. So grounding can't be done in just any old way. It has to be done in a particular way, and that is, we're going to ground 1 day with 1 privilege taken away. If your child chooses to ignore that consequence, then we go 3 days with all privileges taken away, and we never ever go more than 7 days. Why? Because if it goes longer than 7 days, your child sees no light at the end of the tunnel, and they feel they have lost everything. Okay? We have to think like kids think, not like parents think. And kids' brains are not fully developed until they're 21, 22. So their concept of time is a lot different than ours. A week is an eternity to a child. 3 days is a long time for a child. So don't feel like you're being lenient or letting your kid off the hook by only going 3 days. 3 days is a long time. So 1 day, if that doesn't work, we go 3 days. If that doesn't work, we can go 7, but it usually doesn't have to go that far. We never ever go over 7.